I'd like to call the morning session of the August 4th, 2025 meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order. Welcome, room full of people here this morning. Good to see you all this morning, all these happy faces. And also welcome those who are watching on our live stream channel. Welcome to you as well. Before we get started, I do want to remind everyone of the board's 6 priorities, and you'll hear a lot on the financial stewardship today. We also have educational funding, infrastructure, which we will hear some this morning as well, land use, public safety, and finally our county employees. And as traditional, we will open with an invocation. Commissioner Davis is going to lead us in that this morning. And we also have the pledge led by Vietnam Veterans of America 990. So if you choose to stand for the invocation, please do so now. It'll be followed by the pledge.
If you would please bow your heads. Thank you, Heavenly Lord, for this day. Thank you for the cooler weather and the break in the heat. Thank you for everyone here. Please bless this meeting and guide our hearts and our minds as we work together for the service of the citizens of Johnston County. Please grant us guidance and wisdom for your work. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's our honor to do the Pledge of Allegiance today. Place the flag. Hit, up, present, horn. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, horn. Left, haze. Forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right, the first item on the agenda is approval of this morning's agenda. Is there any need to adjust the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, item number 5, the Public Utilities Buffalo Road Parallel Force Main project budget would need to be postponed until the August 18th, 6 p.m. meeting. Also, this board will need to go into closed session at the end of this meeting as item number 16. With those modifications, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Next is the consent agenda. We have 8 items there. We have some additions to the DOT system. We have approval of the Johnston County Government Facilities Master Plan and Design for DSS building and the on and off-site improvements. We have approval of the Johnston County ABC board travel policy. We have a request to surplus vehicles from our emergency services. We also have authorization to proceed with bidding for DA renovation project. We also have some budget revisions for the library and the sheriff's department. And then we have appointments to the Johnston County Board of Health. And we also have the Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority, the Livestock Arena Management Board, and the Voluntary Ag District Advisory Board. And finally, we have tax releases and refunds. Are there any of those items that we need to consider for removal, consideration at a later date?
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. I did want to thank the Voluntary Ag District Board. I thought we had given some consideration to removing that item and doing that at a later.
Yeah, that was what I was going to make that motion or edit that item.
That would be the.
Can we amend the
Can I
motion?
amend the motion?
You amend
I
your
see.
motion to, yeah, we
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
All right, and you amend your second to that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we have the consent agenda with item G4 removed for time for additional applications and considered later date. Okay,
My mistake, Mr. Chairman.
that's all right. All right, all those in favor of that amended motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Consent agenda is approved. That brings us to public comment, and we have our new DA, can we say that? Jason Waller is here to present to us. Good to have you. It's been a long time since we had a new DA in here today. So welcome, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I just wanted to, I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm not here. I'm not here. This is just an introduction. I reached out to Mr. Hester, who I really appreciate the relationship I've had with him, and Ms. Lester, new relationship I've had with her. Just wanted to take just a few minutes to briefly introduce myself. I've been on the job now, I guess, a month and 3 days or 4 days. I had a swearing in, Commissioner Godwin. I got to see him there. Some of the rest of you may have been there. It was a whirlwind day, but I got to speak with him. But I just wanted to introduce myself just for a moment. I'm a prosecutor. I'm a career prosecutor. I've been doing it for 19 years as of September 1st of next month. Spent about 11 years and change in Wake County, and then 7 years over here and change before I became the DA. My family and I, we live in Clayton. Got a wonderful wife that Chairman Lauder knows very well, and 3 beautiful kids. I love being the DA. Everybody's talked about what the big difference has been the last couple of this month, and I said the minutes fly by. The minutes go by very fast, but I've loved every minute. I've loved every minute of it. Just so you know where I kind of hope to go with the office is my 3 big core principles. I'm calling it my iron triangle, to borrow something from the business world, but one is obviously public safety. That might not be a surprise coming from the district attorney, but that's priority number 1. Specifically, we're already working on establishing a dangerous offenders task force to make sure that we're going after the right folks, the folks that are a danger to our community. Specifically, I think juvenile crime violent crime is on the rise. And I was talking with my investigator this morning about that, and he gave me a nice little, I guess, acronym. We're going to try and work with a PIE method: prevention, intervention, and then enforcement. The last couple murder cases I've tried have both involved juveniles, and so that's something that's really important to me in establishing that dangerous offenders task force. Number 2, I'm really big on efficiency. That's huge to me. One thing that I always tell young prosecutors is, you know, a lot of lawyers can get up and make a closing argument or present evidence, but the great prosecutors are the ones that can move a docket, whether it's a murder case or whether it's an expired registration in disposition court on a Friday morning. Efficiency is very, very, very important to me. To that end, about 2 or 3 years ago, 2023, we started a homicide status and custody review calendar with the help of Judge Locke, and that's really helped us move our homicides and our custody cases to where when we first started it, we would do homicides in the morning and custody in the afternoon, and it would be 2 full sessions, and I'm proud to say that we've got it down to where we can do both in a morning session this Friday. So we've really put an emphasis on moving some of those homicide cases and custody cases. And then finally, just relationships. That's why I'm here today, to foster relationships. I've got a great relationship with law enforcement, clerk's office, judge's office. Again, Rick and I have worked together for a couple years now. Daniel back there, got to know him. But I want to be here for you as well. I think this is a very important relationship. I know y'all have funded some positions for us over the last few years. Very appreciative of that. I've been here when you've debated that, and I've heard some of the questions and comments, and believe me, I consider them. I think about them. I know I see where you're coming from on that, and I'll promise to you I will do my best to make sure for efficiency's sake we're using that money appropriately. And I know I saw on the agenda about our DA renovation. I'll tell you that's a much needed thing for us as well for workflow and safety purposes in our offices. But I also consider this a two-way street. If y'all need anything from me, if you have any questions about where the DA's office is going, want to come watch court, district or superior, or anything else, an area of the community that you need help with, let me know. My door's always open. Again, I feel like this is a two-way street, and I just don't want to always be coming asking. I want to help as well. So, again, I'm proud to be your DA. If you have any questions now, I'll be glad to answer them, but you can get in touch with me anytime. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Excited to have you.
Quick question
Yes, sir.
And again, welcome, Mr. Waller.
Yes,
Glad
sir.
to have
Thank
you on
you.
board.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned juvenile crime going up, and I was very familiar with that. I was retired from public safety about seven years ago. At that time, the juvenile justice numbers were pretty much had gone down considerably until COVID hit. And juvenile justice had closed a number of their youth development centers and their detention centers because they simply didn't have the numbers. And all at once it exploded. Do you have any insight, and particularly violent crime for juveniles? I saw figures that there were a number of murders, I think, the year ending at 24. It's like 90-some in statewide, but about 28 of those were done by about 13 to 15-year-olds. You're seeing violent crime in the adolescent stages. Any thoughts about what is driving that?
No, and I didn't bring any numbers with you, but I will tell you just my personal experience that what I'm seeing is the juveniles committing these violent crimes, and there seems to not be a whole lot of conscience about it. For example, the last murder I tried was two juveniles came up on a car that was just parked in a driveway, had five other young people in it, opened fire 20 shots into the car, with them being juveniles. Then we had to go through the juvenile process of transferring them to Superior Court and trying them as adults. And then what a lot of people probably don't know is that, the punishment level for that act with them being juveniles is much less than if it was committed by an adult. So that just in terms of my practical experience, that's what I'm seeing, is that juveniles are committing a lot of violent crimes. And again, I do want to do everything we can to prevent those violent crimes, but when it comes time to enforce it, I think we need to be able to focus our time and resources into those cases, because they do take a lot of time to transfer from juvenile court to Superior Court. And that's really something that I want our office to focus on, is trying to focus on those issues with juvenile violent crime. It's just, again, practically speaking, that's where I see the need over the last couple of years.
I got some feedback from Billy Laster, who heads the Juvenile Justice Division at the state level, and he said COVID, the shutdown of schools under COVID seemed to have a profound impact on these juveniles, and he says they saw their admissions, which had been declining for a number of years, jump 25% in more violent crimes. But he said these kids were coming in, almost 100% of them had immediate mental health treatment needs, and there was not many options available to them in the community for that. But I know that Mr. Harris has been working hard to get an urgent care mental health up and running in our county. But I just wanted to mention that mental health seems to be a driving factor in this.
Yeah, absolutely, and that, as part of the Dangerous Offenders Task Force, part of what we want to do is not only, focus on, punishing the people to the full extent we can, but also, like you're saying, provide options to folks that we can see on that track of providing services, whether it be mental health or any other services that we can provide or help provide to prevent what we're seeing in terms of the violent crimes. So,
All right.
but thank you for your questions.
Thank you very much.
All right, anyone else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all, appreciate it,
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
All right, anyone else here for public comments this morning? Yes, if you would come forward, please state your name. You have 3 minutes to address the board, and this is time for the board to listen. We like to talk a lot, but this is not the time that we do that. So if you would, again, state your name and your town or township that you're from.
Yes, for sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Jordan Forrest-Strawley, and I'm here on behalf of the Johnston County Association of Realtors and the residents that our members serve. We really appreciate all of the work that staff and the commissioners have put into planning for Johnston County's water and sewer infrastructure. And we understand that growth requires investment, and that funding has to be in place to meet those needs. Johnston County is projected to grow significantly over the next 10 years, and that growth will only benefit the community if the residents can afford to live here. Steep upfront development fees combined with rising land cost, interest rates, labor shortages, and stormwater compliance requirements like dry detention basins can make it hard to deliver workforce housing for teachers, nurses, first responders, and young families. It was noted in a previous meeting that these system development fees would be paid by the builders and not the residents. In the end, those costs, as you guys probably know, will be passed on to those homeowners when they purchase the house. And those are the future Johnston County homeowners. Those are future residents of this county. We've heard concerns from unique users like farmers who may require larger meters for backup purposes, but whose actual usage is going to be far less than that level suggests. That really highlights the need for flexibility as we're making these decisions. We definitely support the principle of growth paying for its fair share, but we also believe it should be balanced with responsible development and housing access. To that end, last week I shared over Bowen National Research's 2024 housing analysis for Johnston County. I brought hard copies as well in case you guys need them. We're happy to partner with you guys as we move forward, as you consider future fees that will affect development and housing, so that we can kind of look at things holistically and make decisions together about how future residents are going to be impacted by growth. We know you guys have a lot on your plate. Johnston County is the fastest growing county from all the data that we've seen statewide. So it's not an easy task, and these aren't easy decisions, and we want to provide all the resources we can to help you guys. That's all from me.
All right, thank you. If you would, leave those with the deputy clerk there.
Of course.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak? All right, and Madam Clerk, any emails? Okay. All right, we will move on to our public hearing on the stormwater ordinance and its proposed revisions. I will now open the public hearing and call on Chandra Farmer, our Utilities Director, to begin the presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the public hearing for the proposed stormwater ordinance modifications. We would like to do a brief presentation today, give you opportunity to ask questions, and of course allow for input from any public comments anyone else may have. Then our intent would be to come back to you the first meeting in September to ask for adoption based on any feedback that may be received between now and then we would recommend an implementation date of November 1st, 2025. And I have with me today to do the presentation, Beth Umstead, a consultant for our stormwater program, and Jessica Batten, our stormwater manager.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Do we have the presentation to be able to go through? Okay. Good, because I don't have it memorized.
This is a test, yeah.
This is my nightmare. Coming to class unprepared.
Yeah.
We did it on ours, don't we?
Do you have a hard copy back here? I have a hard copy. You came prepared.
I think we have a hard copy.
Yeah, we've got it.
Okay, all right, good. All right, I've got Cliff Notes, which is a good thing. So good morning, I'm Beth, and it's great to be in front of you guys. I think you're going to hear this again without a lot of new stuff. I think there might be one piece that we made a decision on that we're going forward with that may be new for you. So we've been deep in the revision process for 4 years now, I believe it is, with a lot of that stall, as you all know, related to the state and first understanding what the requirements were and then being able to incorporate them into the new program. So we started, the revisions were spurred on by the Neuse Rule and the requirements for nutrient management within the Neuse River Basin. We are one of the communities that's named. As you know, we started talking with the state in March of 2020, actually, and began the stakeholder process to understand what the state was expecting. So our goal was to come away with what do we have to do. And so we had a number of submittals to the Division of Water Resources with the state, with the ultimate goal being approval by the Environmental Management Commission, which is required by the rule. We have to be approved by them ultimately. We still, to date, do not have that approval, but since we've been working on this for such a long time, since there was feedback from you all that we need to do some modifications to address flooding complaints and stormwater complaints overall, we're moving forward. We've incorporated everything that we know into the stormwater ordinance and into the design manual that the state has required so far. We also have a revised U.S. Fish and Wildlife agreement. They came to us with some desired changes to that agreement that the county had between the Fish and Wildlife, DOT, and the county. And so those modifications have also been incorporated into what you have in front of you. Some of those modifications include BUA limits. BUA is built upon area, which we called impervious surfaces previously. How we're applying buffers within certain watersheds and areas. We also revised, had them request that we revise our attenuation criteria, and we've removed land dedication. So we've had these documents, the ordinance and the design manual, out for public comment since the beginning of July. And Jessica's here to talk a little bit about public comments. Did we get any?
The only question I've gotten is when this is going to be in effect, so I haven't really gotten any comments or feedback.
No comments of real substance on the design criteria. We did hear, make it as simple as possible, which we agree with, to the extent that we can and still meet the NUS rule criteria. So if you guys look at the fourth slide, we'll go through, I'll walk through the major changes. So one of the things that we have realized is that a lot of the built-upon area restrictions that are on residential development in the past haven't been enough to allow for additions for homeowners. Plus, the product being built is different now than it was in the early 2000s. So we're setting a criteria that new residential development not served by public sewer must be designed with a minimum BUA of 6,000 square feet per lot. And that's the minimum design. It doesn't mean it has to be built to that. I know we had some discussions about that previously when we were in front of you with this. It doesn't have to be built to 6,000, but it has to allow up to at least 6,000 square feet or more than that. Typically, those lots that are served by public sewer are much smaller. And so requiring 6,000 square feet per lot on each one of those may not be feasible. Those will be looked at on a case-by-case basis. So in the stormwater program, we have both the stormwater quantity and quality component. For quantity, we are requiring in the environmentally sensitive area that's already existing and Middle Creek attenuation from the 1-year storm through the 100-year storm. And this is hopefully to address some of the smaller system flooding, not the hurricane stuff, but the smaller system flooding. Everywhere else, the attenuation is going to be set for 1 through 25. So there will be attenuation on the majority of the development coming forward. There are exemptions, and here's where we've got something new in front of you today. It's not new. It's in the ordinance and in the design manual as it is. But that is an exemption that some of our developments don't need to have attenuation because they're so small. Some of the residential developments, in fact, may only have 5 lots, may only have 10 lots. And so we were trying to avoid having, again, from a lot of feedback from y'all, avoid having attenuation in these tiny lots where you don't have a homeowners association. You have 5 lots and a pond that needs to be maintained. So we were trying to move away from that. And we've set that criteria at anything single-family residential that has 19 lots or less and has no more than an 8% increase in their post-development runoff rate. Does not have to meet the attenuation criteria. They still may need that water quality application part because of the noose rules. We can't exempt these developments from the noose rules, but we can from attenuation. And for non-single family residential, if it's less than 10,000 square feet or less of BUA, and there's also a criteria in here that we're still trying to get our arms fully around about the density of 24%, as long as your density doesn't trigger that 24%. But definitely, if the addition to non-single family residential is less than 10,000 square feet, then they are exempt from attenuation. So we're going to still have the stormwater plans, even if we don't have attenuation. We have that water quality criteria, which is what item 4 really is, the triggers for stormwater plans. Single-family residential, if you disturb an acre or more, or less than an acre, if you're part of a larger common plan of development, we do have to apply the stormwater permit. Non-single-family residential, it's half acre of disturbance, or creates or adds BUA to a density of 24% or greater. That 24% comes from the noose rule, and the half acre, actually. Both of those are noose rule. Oh, we're up. Dang, y'all are good. All right, so then that's, the next piece is we are removing the land dedication program from our program. We missed that, that's okay. Yep, none of those, that's fine. We're right down here.
Oh, okay.
So in the past, the existing program as it is right now has an option to increase your built-upon area if you use the land dedication program. We're removing that out of the program as that really hasn't worked the way that it was intended to, I believe, to begin with. And so the existing was if you were 12% or 15%, for BUA, if you went over that for your single-family residential development, then you had to buy into the land dedication program with a maximum BUA of 50 to 60%. Okay, and then proposed, we're removing land dedication, and we're increasing the maximum built-upon area to 34%. With, I'm sorry,
30 to 40.
what did I say?
30.
30 to 40. Okay. And non-residential can go up to 80% full built out without having that land dedication. One of the positives that came out of the noose rules was the caps are gone totally. We had that, and then the caps are going to be gone. So now the developers can actually buy down the nitrogen loading offset, get those credits, yes. Instead of having to have a cap that they could not exceed. So now they can exceed that cap. We're still down at that 3.6 pounds per acre per year. We have a lot of information in the design manual on clarification for what needs to be submitted and how it should be submitted and what we're looking for. Our goal is to reduce the back and forth between the designers and us as plan reviewers to hopefully make that process more efficient.
Beth, since that was the difference between the green and the red
I'm sorry.
on there, is there a difference between the stuff in the green and the stuff in the red?
No, just different
I
colors.
think the green was from the Fish and Wildlife Agreement and the red was
Oh,
from.
that's
Okay,
right.
yeah, okay.
That's right, that's
Okay.
right, that's
All
right.
right, I knew there was
Yes.
something, I couldn't
There's
remember
something
what
in
it
there.
was.
That is correct.
Okay.
Anything in here that's green is a requirement that's set by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Anything in red is the noose rules. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Since we're asking questions, can I ask, I don't mean to stop you, but what do you foresee, I'm just taking some notes here, what do you foresee maybe some of the ramifications of removing the land dedication program that we have?
So instead of that, there's going to be attenuation. So I think it'll be they'll actually treat on site instead of offset it by paying into a fund.
Okay. I just didn't know, twofold question for our discussion purposes, just the financial piece of that, if they do pay into a fund, and then do you feel like this is the proper way that we should be treating these soils, I guess, for
So-
citizens watching, just understanding kind of what we're
Yes,
discussing?
so instead of paying into a fund that may sit there for a while, they'll use that money to actually build treatment on their site and treat for what they're building.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying.
And the attenuation does two things. Of course, it's water quantity management, but there's also a water quality component that's in there as well. So while land dedication is gone, we now are going to have this attenuation. It may be dry, it may be wet, but it does provide some quality as well as quantity right there on site instead of potentially being somewhere else.
Got it. Thank you.
So I was gonna say, so the decision is, do they spend the money
On site.
on site, or do they spend it somewhere
Right.
else?
How's the
off-site,
quality
pay for it?
determined? How's it monitored?
It's not monitored long-term. What the requirement is, certain design criteria, and so it's designed up front, and then it's built that way, and we require the as-built certification from the engineer that it has been constructed properly, and then that maintenance goes forward. So it's more it's not performance-based in terms of grabbing water quality, but it is backed up by national data.
I got you.
On
When you
water
do it
quality.
this way, this is what you'll get.
That is the assumption, yes, sir.
I got you. One other quick question. Has FEMA, have they expanded their timeframes in terms of flood events? In the administrative manual here, it talks about 25 years. I don't ever remember running into anything like that, 25. You know, you hear about the 100-year floodplain. But what are their timeframes they have now?
So are you talking about FEMA flood mapping
Well,
or your
perhaps
questions?
not, but it says it shall be attenuated for the 1 year through 25-year storm event.
Right, and so there's a hydrologic accepted design protocol that talks about what each one of those storm events really looks like
Okay.
on the modeling side. You know, the one, somewhere between the 1 and 2 year is kind of like the bank full flow of a channel. 10
That
year.
doesn't mean that we've mapped out areas.
Oh, no, sir.
affected
No,
by
sir.
that.
This is
Okay.
just a design criteria, and that 25 is kind of like the overbank management, but not quite the 100. So managing all of those is kind of the comprehensive way of trying to make that development look like it's not there.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question about that language, just to clarify? When you say it's designed, be attenuated for the 1 year through 25-year storm events, that indicates that anything that falls into those specific categories on the low end versus the high end, will be attenuated by the features in the design. Is that correct?
So not the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not each one of those storms, but the accepted storms are 1, 10, 25.
And that is clarified in the design manual.
And that's clarified in the design manual, yes.
So does that mean that 25 would be the event that would be used in all circumstances as a max, or?
No, you can hold everything back to the 25. Is that what you're asking? Does holding the 25 also address the 1?
Yes.
It does not, always. And so a lot of times what our engineers are designing are multi-staged outlet control devices. So you get the attenuation of the 1. You still get the base flow of the 1, but you get it at the pre-development rate. That's what we commonly see,
Okay.
yeah.
So there will be not only attenuation features for the 1 year storm, but there'll be attenuation features required for the 25-year storm as well.
Yes, sir, but typically it's in one feature. It's
Okay.
in one stormwater control.
All right, that helps. That's,
Okay. Okay, good. Any other questions?
I guess my question is, going back to about removing the land dedication of not having to pay for it. Is that something that we're really going to need to focus in on with parks or open space or anything like that with it? Like not how much, I guess my question is how much average would be, how much money is going into that account every year? Not much, okay.
It varies per site, but it hasn't been used substantially.
Okay.
There's a lot of requirements on it.
Okay.
It can't be used for parks or usable
Okay.
space. It has to be like undeveloped areas.
Okay,
And I'll just note, it's separate than the land dedication requirement that planning has for subdivisions.
Okay.
Open space requirement
Right.
for planning.
Get closer, a little
totally-
closer.
The
Sorry.
open space requirement that planning has for new development, new subdivisions is totally separate from this land dedication program. They are
Okay.
not related.
okay, thank you for that clarification.
Good questions. I like questions.
I really did open the door. I didn't know I was going to do that.
Well, I was making notes because I heard,
I had
well, he
notes
raised his
for
hand.
later.
I raised mine, so.
Please ask questions.
We didn't want to derail you, though.
You're not derailing. So we also have, as I was talking about, the idea behind the stormwater management controls that will have dry detention, wet detention, bioretention, wetlands, all those things is you design it this way, you build it this way, this is what we expect to have. But getting it built that way before it's turned over is a key component in there. So we have quite a bit of clarification on that bonding and conversion process and performance guarantees, as well as as-built certification. Was there something you want to add? Okay. We are requiring an annual inspection on all stormwater control measures to make sure that the SCM or stormwater control measure owner is getting that inspection completed annually with the inspection report coming to the county. You'll notice in the ordinance that we've pulled the buffer rules out. We are going to separate that because the enforcement of the buffer rules is different than the enforcement of the stormwater ordinance. So we just pulled that out. You'll see that later. Right now it's existing, it's recodified, but we do need to do some modifications to that to bring that up to speed with the state stormwater rules, buffer rules. Sorry.
I had a question, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
For the annual inspections, from the previous slide, sorry, would that be done with Johnston County end, or is that done somewhere else?
They can hire a private engineer, or there's a Class C state that they can take
Okay.
to be certified to do so.
Okay,
And that's outlined, the professionals that can actually do those inspections, that's outlined
Okay.
in the ordinance, I believe, and in the.
okay, okay.
Good question. So we've got an at-a-glance that just kind of tells you what's changed, what's existing and what's changed, partly so we could keep up with it. And this is included in the manual as well. I think Chandra went over all of this. We're here just giving you guys an update with coming back in September. We'd like the effective date, or anticipated effective date is November 1. There have been some questions about what's vested, what's not vested. That's set by the state, so we'll follow those requirements. However, if a designer runs the scenarios for development under the old rules versus the new rules and decides, maybe they're part of the way through, they have a choice. They have permit choice.
Okay.
They can fall under the new rules, or they can go under the old rule if they are in process. Once everything is in, everybody is going to fall under the new rules. But in that process, if they are somewhere in their development process, they can make that decision.
Okay, my question is, let's say permit subdivisions gets approval, but then it sits for like 3 or 4 years. Is there a time limit of whenever they have to like reapply and to follow the new rules, or if it was approved now, and then would they still be under the old rules?
If they were approved by the planning board, then they would fall under that unless their approval expires.
Okay. So if their approval expires, they'll have to come back under the new ones. Okay.
Right. Good question.
I have a question regarding the maintenance, recurring maintenance, and that's into perpetuity, I presume. Who does that fall back on to maintain these stormwater control measures?
The HOA?
The owners.
The owners of the property. So a homeowner buys the property and it has stormwater control measures on there, then it's his responsibility to maintain that. And
It would usually be the HOA, not one individual.
one end of it, so it's the HOA responsibility.
Yes, hopefully, as we're seeing the designs come in now, the stormwater control measures have to be in a drainage easement and typically are not on a lot that also has a house on it, because that does seem to imply
Right,
that it's just
right.
theirs. And so we have it on open space or property that's owned and maintained by the homeowners association.
I've seen a lot of these measures on established subdivisions over the years fall into disrepair.
Yes.
Is there a mechanism to address that through these revisions?
So that's what the annual inspection is, so that they look at it each year. That is the requirement, and they will have to update it if there's any issues that need to be corrected.
Any
As a
guess at
result
the
of that.
compliance rate for that?
That's my question.
Any on the current compliance rate for?
Would y'all like my feedback?
Yeah.
I don't think this is really a part of our current ordinance, and that's why we're adding it.
Okay.
I know I've had to call Jessica multiple times on whether or not, who it falls under and things like that. So I'm really glad to see some of these revisions and the fact that we're not relying on HOAs, because it's just unfortunately not something that can be counted on.
I had a question about the 6,000 square foot built upon area. Is that lot size dependent?
It's dependent based upon whether or not it's served by public sewer.
Or septic.
Okay.
Or septic, yeah.
Okay.
If it's served by public sewer, then it doesn't really apply. If it's septic, then yes, it applies to residential subdivision lots.
So if it's septic and the lot is 2 acres as opposed to 1 acre, is it 6,000 regardless?
So that's just the minimum. They could have as much as they want as their
They could have
permit.
20,000 square feet.
They just
BUA.
have to design for at least 6,000.
Oh, the design part. Okay, I got you. Okay. And then later on, if once it's built up and then they decide to cover a big chunk of that with concrete or extra buildings or whatever, is there any way to go back and police that or
So if it requires a building permit,
okay.
that's when we can catch that. They would have the option to add a rain garden or rain barrels or some other engineered design to offset that.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Now, if you've got a large lot, it makes sense to go ahead and include that in your overall subdivision for something greater than 6,000 square feet. So then the homeowner doesn't have to come back through and go through that process. But that is just the minimum for design, and then they can add beyond that if they need to. Right now, when we did the desktop analysis of, existing lots and houses in the county that were served by septic, not sewer, 6,000 square feet seemed to be enough to cover their driveway, their house, and still have some left over to be able to add a pool or a patio or widen their driveway. So that's what we're trying to build into the upfront design, so it doesn't get stuck with us going, well, you were approved at 3,000 square
Yeah,
feet,
that's the feedback that I've been getting.
and you're already at 3,800, and you want to add a pool.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's, we've created this issue that we're trying to undo for the future at least.
Pendulum swung too far. Is that what you were mentioning, the 6,000, the BUA or 24% or more? Is
That's
that
commercial.
okay?
That's only commercial.
Okay.
And that would be 10,000 square feet or 24%.
Okay, just want to make sure I was taking notes correctly.
Yeah, and just, we've been trying to run scenarios to make sure that we're fully understanding, and that is one of the areas that I think is the most confusing, is how do we apply that? Because the state says if you have 24% out there right now before the rule, and you add another 1,000 square feet, you're over 24%, so you've got to treat the new BUA
quality.
for quality, not necessarily for quantity, but for that quality. So anything beyond that. So just something that we've got to keep in mind on non-single family residential, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question about enforcement and inspection. It says, I see here, it says that the person responsible for maintenance of any stormwater control measure has to submit a annual inspection report to the stormwater administrator. Now, again, that's going to be the HOA in a residential development.
Yes.
Stormwater administrator is going to be somebody at the county level. I like that. And says that that inspection report must be done by a qualified registered engineer, landscape architect, or an individual who has passed the SCM construction inspection course at NC State University. So presumably these HOAs are going to have to contract somebody or get somebody qualified themselves.
That knows what they're looking at, yes, sir.
If they're not submitting these reports, then there's some sort of action that's taken then to prompt them that this is needed?
We'll be sending out letters to notify them.
Okay.
Is there a time certain that you look for? Because I know there's some old subdivisions that have,
So we're gonna update it to be required on January 1, all the annual reports.
Yes.
So they don't have to keep track of individual dates.
well, I'm just talking about if there are subdivisions that were built in 1970 or 80.
No,
Yeah,
it will only be
yeah.
after the ordinance.
Okay.
Was enacted.
So if
in the
they're
late 90s.
grandfathered in, then they don't have to do, okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to try to figure out where they all were and,
So this would
Gonna
apply
ask how many
from that,
staff positions y'all
from
need.
effective date forward, anything built? So these rules would apply from the effective date forward for anything that is built?
Anything from the original stormwater ordinance, because we've always required some type of treatment. So from 1998 to the present. Yeah. And we've got a list of best management practices, and they're supposed to submit an annual report, but there really hadn't been a very organized, attempt at getting those inspections done.
There's not many in subdivisions. It's mainly commercial, the older stuff, unless it's very dense sewer subdivisions.
All right.
So if you send out the letter to the HOA and they don't reply, what happens?
We'll
Send
out
another
follow-up
letter?
letters
Send
and
another
try to
letter?
Contact them.
So there's, and this is something that all municipalities that deal with stormwater control measures in the HOA deal with. I'm sorry.
Gonna make the attorney stand.
Yep.
now we've done it.
We typically have a
Do we need
process
to get
in
the DA
which
back
we
in here?
send the first letter, and then we send a second letter. And then depending on the response that we receive, depends upon whether or not we give additional time. Then the files are referred to me for enforcement. If you look in the proposed ordinance, there are all types of enforcement remedies that are available, from civil penalties to injunctive relief. So we have options in which to enforce. And of course, filing a lawsuit is always the last resort, but there are occasions in which that is required. So there are enforcement mechanisms within the ordinance for us to gain compliance.
Thank you for that. I know a lot of the calls that I receive, at least, and I'm sure the other commissioners get the same, many times are related to HOAs not necessarily doing what they were intended to do or designed to do, and it's causing frustration with property owners and homeowners. And so that's one of the reasons I was just curious what happens if they just absolutely don't comply. So thank you.
And I don't think the goal will be to enforce that they didn't give us a piece of paper. The goal will be compliance and having a structure that is sound and doing, in the condition it's supposed to be in, to treat as it's supposed to.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
No.
I had a, what?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you see that you have enough staff to help handle all these changes?
Yes, we
Okay.
just hired another inspector.
Okay.
Started last week.
Okay.
And we are in the process of hiring another staff person as well.
Okay. That was more of my question, making sure we got all the
Yeah.
employees taken care of. Okay.
I was gonna say, yeah, for some of us who've been around, we're glad to hear that. No doubt needed help for quite some
Thank
time.
you.
The
so.
civil penalty may be no more than 25,000 a day.
Say that louder for the people online.
Yeah. Is that per offense? Is that something like the DEQ? Yeah, the
right. We get my
DEQ likes to say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Each violation.
Each violation, there you go.
We got teeth.
So I guess I have, instead of three, I have two questions now. One is, what is our plan for routinely looking at this for updates? I know with our other plans, they've gone longer, but what are our current schedule for looking at our stormwater
The
ordinances?
stormwater ordinance, I would say a big trigger for this one was the news rule updates. So if there's any other state updates, that will be a trigger, as well as complaints and things that we get. I mean, development changes over time, so there's always going to be something new that comes up.
Yeah, I would just encourage us collectively as a group to make sure we're looking at, whatever the compliance is, what the development
Yes.
changes are, and making sure we're as close to the edge of the changes as we possibly could be. The other thing is, and I know we're looking at voting on this, I think, in September 2nd. But there's a lot of red in the ordinance, and since we didn't see the whole thing, is there a way you could cross-reference maybe in those, particularly the changes, where you could point to the section in the ordinance or the manual that those changes are, so we could kind of look specifically for those? Because like I said, there's a lot of pages and there's a lot of changes. So.
Dana did just email the presentation to us.
Yes.
So we have it.
Yeah, but I'd like it cross-referenced, so that was the other piece of that, if you could somehow develop a cross-reference so we can look at the ordinance.
I'm sitting here thinking through where it all kind of lines up, and there may be some things that are really easy to pinpoint.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
others that may be rather broad in general.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I would start with just the specific changes. And,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we need everything in there, but.
Are there any more public stakeholder meetings or anything like that scheduled before September?
No, it's been out on the website for public comment.
And we sent it out to the listserver and to the development community folks that we routinely do.
Perfect. Just want to make sure for those that said, I didn't know anything about it, that we had, it's still out there for anyone who has comments, and perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and I would say, I know you'd mentioned the folks who commented, or the lack of folks who commented, and the first time when we first put it out, asked for comment, that it wasn't like a tremendous outpouring of, I mean, I think there was 10-ish responses that we got to that, so I just wanted to clarify that and make sure there has been involvement.
Yes.
Early on, just
yes.
not a tremendous amount of response to that. Okay. All right then, unless there's anything else, we will place this as an item on our September 2nd agenda for consideration and approval. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is request.
Yeah, close public hearing.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I was flipping the page.
That's
I
all
will
right.
close the public hearing, and we will now move on to the next item, which is a request for approval of water and sewer system development fee study for fiscal year 2026. And Ms. Farmer is here to present that to us.
Yes, you may recall at the last meeting, I presented to you a lengthy presentation on our water and sewer system development fee calculations and our updated analysis for fiscal year 2026. Based on what I presented at that meeting, our financial advisor completed a completely updated report with an updated, with a date of July 25th, 2025. You have received, I think you've received a copy of that complete report. It is, again, the same information that I presented at the last meeting. The statute for system development fees, as I outlined before, there's a process for how we go through. There's a process for establishing these fees, and one step in that process requires adoption of the analysis. Again, this is not the adoption of the fee. This is just adopting the analysis and the methodology we use to determine what the maximum allowable fee is. So we're requesting approval of that document.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
All right, any questions for Ms. Farmer on the report? And the other things we had talked about for interim measures, Raleigh, Harnett County weren't in the CIP, the 2026 update.
The only item included in that is the cost to purchase an additional 2 million gallons a day from Raleigh, which is the short-term water supply at our existing interconnect. And there's one project in the capital improvements plan to construct the smaller improvements associated with that additional purchase.
All right, thank you. All right, did I hear a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the water and wastewater system development fee study for fiscal year 2026, including the updated water and sewer capacity capital improvements plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right, the next item is proposed water and sewer development fees for fiscal year 25-26 and water and sewer bulk capacity fees for fiscal year 25 and 26. Ms. Farmer?
Sure. So in follow-up to the last item, this is the item where I'm recommending a system development fee for fiscal year 25-26 and a bulk water and sewer capacity fee for fiscal year 25-26. And consistent with the presentation that I presented at the last meeting, I've kept the same structure with the same recommendation that I had at that time. And that shows us going over the next several fiscal years towards that maximum amount that our analysis determined we could charge. And I proposed the recommended phasing of the fee based on the fact that we do have a 20-year capital improvement plan being really the largest part of this analysis. Our 20-year water and sewer capital improvement plan is $1 billion. We know some of those projects are needed short-term, some are longer-term. When you put the cost, when you're trying to anticipate the cost of those projects over a 20-year period, certainly we are more accurate the closer we get to those projects. And that largest expenditure is our Lower Neuse Water Supply Project, which, you know, the current plan anticipates that needing to be online by 2033. We've already started some expenditures towards that, but the larger expenditures to that, we would begin incurring likely in fiscal year 27-28. So we certainly need to continue to update the system development fee analysis as we get closer to those projects, and that could change the end number at some point. The other reason I've recommended phasing towards that maximum amount is if we were to be successful in any kind of appropriations or grant funding, which, you know, that's certainly a big if there, those costs, we would recalculate our system development fees, and those costs cannot be included in those projects. We cannot recoup those types of costs. You know, I don't anticipate that being a very large amount, but if so, we would have to update that analysis at that time too. So you can see the proposed recommended system development fees that I have here for fiscal year 25-26. The largest one that would impact the most is the new residential fee, which would be proposed of removing that from $4,750 to $6,000 for fiscal year 25-26. And as you recall, the system development fee analysis came up with the maximum amount we could charge there for $8,980 per unit. There's also the chart that you have in front of you indicates the proposed rate for all of the non-residential meter sizes as well, existing residential, and then also the per gallon per day rate that we would charge in some situations where the impact of the meter size needed is not consistent with the actual impact of the system. There are proposed sewer system development fees here. Again, that one actually
Shannon,
did.
before you go,
Yes, I'm sorry.
before we leave that page, those accept the impact greater than, describe what that looks like, that last piece you talked about it.
So there are some situations where if we came down and we applied this meter-based rate, it may be appropriate for some facilities, such as a church that they thought they needed a very large meter size, but when you look at their actual usage, they don't have a daycare, they don't have a facility there, maybe they need a 2-inch because of an instantaneous flush or something. That would be unusual. But there are some situations where their actual usage, if you calculated their average use per day, it would be much less than the, right now for, let's say, a 2-inch, the $38,000. And we knew that their need wouldn't be that. Typically, if we have a customer we have applied that to a school situation before, and I think maybe there has been a church situation, institutional situations where we have applied that rate. Typically, though, when you look at the average day demand for someone who actually needs a 2-inch, if you calculated it per gallon per day, that would be more than the actual recommended flat rate for that size.
Okay.
It would be very rare for that situation to be applied again. It's been institutional situations.
And the other piece is the residential versus the non-residential. And I don't know if you have a breakdown between, you know, how much residential customers that we have that are paying residential rates versus non-residential, not fees me say fees. So the non-res, is that 10%, 30%?
You mean
Yeah, the top.
commercial and institutional customers versus our number of residential customers?
Yeah, because the first two items are residential. Our first two lines are residential.
Right,
What
existing
percentage of our
residential.
customers does that make?
So like an existing residential customer for a well disconnect, someone who's coming off of a well and they need to connect to county water, generally that is less than 10% of our water customers.
Then do you have any break on the new construction and
Don't have that, but
Okay.
certainly our number of customers, when you look at our non-residential customers versus our residential customers, we have many more residential customers. 49,000 total retail water customers. I want to say less than 5,000 is non-residential.
And we're growing, how many, I guess, permits are we getting for new construction?
Typically, we've been adding about 1,500 to 2,000 new taps per year.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for allowing me to ask that. If you roll on to the sewer then.
Okay, sewer's a little different. We've already completed that large expansion that was needed for sewer and have another one underway, but those rates kind of went up significantly a few years ago. But as we go back and relook at the analysis, we look at the state requirement for us to reduce the number of gallons per day per bedroom assumed that rate reduces slightly from the current rate of $4,020 to $3,080 per residential unit. That's the residential rate, and then as you can see, the non-residential rates are adjusted accordingly based on the water meter size. And again, there's also a per gallon per day rate associated with that in the situation that were to be needed.
All right. So on the water side, we've got a huge project in our CIP, and on the sewer side, we've recently completed projects.
Right,
and
so we have
thus the
an expansion
different directions.
underway, but, we already started that new wastewater treatment plant site. We started it, we're expanding it. The big difference in the water one is we certainly do have a large new water supply project on a brand-new site that's going to require significant investment.
Thanks.
Then the next piece of what's,
Yeah, I've
you
got
want to
a
ask the question first?
Yeah. Does the rate, the adopted rate to move towards maximum allowable, does that have any bearing at all on the states, on our ability to get state funding or grants or anything? You know what I mean? Does the state look at that? The state said, well, they haven't used what they
I
could
don't
have
think
done.
so, because, all of these fees are associated with growth. And typically, when we have growth, we are less eligible for state and federal funding projects.
I got you.
When they see that you have growth, that's typically less appropriate. I mean, we certainly continue to apply for the SRF state funding, which is low-interest loans. Very few grants we're eligible for, but we continue to apply for those. In fact, we were the first one off the list. I shouldn't say off the list, but the last funding round from the state program, our projects did not get funding. We just barely missed it. But you get less points when you have the significant amount of growth that we have, like we have.
I'd like to ask a question about the phased in of these rates. I understood in past conversations that there's a significant amount of money be left on the table if we don't go to the maximum at the next opportunity, even though it's justified and warranted by the calculation. How much money would that involve on water and sewer going if the phase approach is undertaken?
So based on the assumptions that we have made for the anticipated growth and new connections over the next 2 fiscal years, if we were to delay and phase into the maximum amount, we would be a difference of about $8 million for the retail system development fees. So we would collect about $8 million less over the next 2 fiscal years as of what we would if we went to the maximum fee.
Okay. That's a lot of money.
And you said that per year?
It's $8 million total over the next 2 fiscal years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Based on our growth projections.
Yeah. Well, to
Yes.
Commissioner Stovall's point, I think that, as I said, we have 2 ways to pay for all this. One is system development fees. The other is our current users. And I'm opposed to the second one of it being put on the backs. So to me, system development fees are the way, and, losing $8 million over 2 years, that means there's $8 million that we've got to make up somewhere.
And we're passing it all to the existing customers as opposed to the intent, which is the new customers.
Yes.
Yeah. Or we're not, just not going to have that money and borrow more money for future projects.
Right,
So-
the more that we have, so the system development fees go into a reserve account, and they can only be used for capital projects that create new capacity. So any that we collect between now and when we start any of these new capital projects would be in that reserve account, and we could go towards those projects, so that would be less revenue bond or less borrowing to actually complete those projects.
And less future debt.
Yeah.
When we
Or
look
interest
at,
paid.
absolutely, we look at the amount of debt that we're gonna have to take on to accomplish this. I think Ms. Farmer said that ultimately it's gonna be over $1 billion worth of capital construction to address water and sewer needs,
Over the 20-year
a
period.
20-year period. And that's a lot of debt repayment that we're gonna have to deal with. And I think we need to be able to count on every dollar that we're eligible to recover through system development fees. What they were intended for needs to go toward that.
I would agree with that.
I do too.
Yeah, and if I could add to, I know a lot of times the headlines like to say county commissioners raise rates. That's what they want to catch, and then it turns around and it seems as though that it's some sort of negative thing. But in actuality, what we hear so much is that the existing Johnston County residents are a little upset of new growth causing them to have higher rates. And so this is a situation where new growth pays for new growth. And the amount of money is not as if we could cut these rates and then the money falls out of the sky. It's got to come from somewhere. And as Chairman said, it's either this type of approach or raising rates on all the existing customers to pay for the new growth. And so I just want to clarify that everyone is aware that anytime we raise rates or increase anything, it's not without a lot of consideration. But in this situation, it is very important that we have new growth pay for new growth.
All right. Anything else? on this?
I would just like to say I appreciate the difference, though, of if you're an existing residential, like you have a well and you're wanting to tap on that rate is different. So then that way it helps, again, those established people, citizens that have been here versus all the new construction. I appreciate that difference.
All right, so are we ready for the bulk customer?
So bulk capacity fees, you may recall from the presentation last time, these are calculated very similar. And this, as we move forward for fiscal year 25, 26 and beyond, we are proposing adjusting those to where the bulk customers are paying for those fees based on the hydraulic zone they're located in. The hydraulic zone dictates the amount of service really required for them. I think I referenced before, water leaves our water treatment plant on our 385 hydraulic zone. To get it to the 492, we have to spend more time and effort, more construction costs, more cost in boosting it to the 492 zone versus if it gravity flows back down to the 323 zone. Most of our capital improvements are in our 492 hydraulic zone. You can see that in our capital improvements plan. Many of the existing lines are currently sized to handle the 20-year anticipated growth for our existing 323 zone. So most of those will be adequate. I did a similar approach on this one with proposing those rates to be phased in over time, and I may not have all the information you need on this memo because I just have the recommended rate for 25, 26. I don't have the maximum rate that I presented to you last month. I can certainly bring that back to you for consideration as needed. We also, as we talk about bulk capacity fees, you may recall in our prior conversations that we do have limited transmission capacity available to sell. Our retail water customers, we serve those out of our water districts. all of our water districts own bulk water capacity with the county. Each of our water districts currently do have some excess capacity available. So as the retail customers come in, they're going to be using that excess capacity those water districts already kind of have, and of course they'll need more in the future. But the remaining of our capacity in our plant and in our system would be available for our bulk customers, and that is what is somewhat limited. So we would propose that we limit sales to them until we have the additional water supplies available. And that would be limited based on the notes that I have included here in this chart. The first note identifies each bulk customer and what hydraulic zone they're located in. And then the item number 2 is where we talk about limiting sales to bulk customers that are only already utilizing over 80% of their existing available capacity. Then we would allow them to purchase sufficient additional bulk capacity so they would have no more than 20% excess capacity until, again, we have the full plan in place for our additional water supply. Some of these bulk customers do have specific interlocal agreements and those that have those specific agreements, they could continue to purchase capacity in accordance with those agreements that outline the time that those capacity purchases occur. And then our intent, as we've talked about several times before, as we continue to move forward with this large water supply project, is we will be working with the towns to plan for their additional water capacity, what are their needs, and implementing specific interlocal agreements with each of our towns that we do not currently have those in place with. And that'll be required too, as they try to meet requirements of the state for their local water supply plans and those needs that are required by the state.
So I did have a question. You mentioned water districts, and we're talking about the bulk customers right now, which is 9 towns and 2 private entities. And historically, I believe we have charged the same rate for all our water districts. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So now that we have 3 distinct hydraulic zones, is that going to change for those water districts based on which one of those 3 they're in?
We certainly can apply it that way in the future, yes. Again, all of those have excess capacity right now. We're not considering sales of that capacity to those towns. I think that will have to be evaluated. So the districts operate a little different with the way some of the loans are structured. But yes, that would be fair to apply it to the bulk water, water district, the same as the towns.
If I'm in 492 and I'm living in one of the 2 towns, and I think there's 2 towns in 492, it wraps around. I don't know if it gets Benson or not, and I'm living in there, and then I'm in an unincorporated area, and I'm paying more.
Right.
We
would need to implement
it
the same way. You're correct. You're correct.
All right. And then the other thing is, and this may be on the sewer side of things, but the current, with the interlocal agreements, are we 10% above capacity? They can go up to 110% of whatever the agreement is?
So the current policy was adopted in 97, but the current policy says the towns buy more capacity when they are at 110% of their current allocated capacity. So it has them purchasing it a little bit later, but even under state rules and the planning for local water supply plans, what the state requires, they should be purchasing that and securing that when they're closer to 80% capacity.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the reason we've recommended the 80%.
Okay.
Point, it's so we can be more consistent with the state, and that's what's going to need to be, that kind of language will be needed in these new interlocal agreements.
Okay, yeah, because it seems like on the sewer side, we were running up, had more in capacity than what we had to give away, so I want to make sure we avoid that where we're allocating or they're purchasing more water than we have currently available. So it's 80% is threshold that they
would
start
have
planning
to
on
be using
that,
80% to buy more from us right now until we have these agreements implemented and the future water supply option identified.
Okay.
Then
I made it think on that one a minute.
The next piece is our bulk sewer capacity fees. This is, we did this calculation, of course, similar to the system development fees as well. This one is proposed to increase slightly. The cost kind of went up per gallon, really because of the capital improvements plan. When you start putting inflation and looking at future years out, some of the costs on there for longer term projects did increase. it didn't go down. The difference in the bulk one and the retail system development fee is we don't identify a number of gallons for the towns. The towns buy that capacity based on every gallon of sewer that they use. So that 75 gallons per day, that 5 gallons per day reduction per bedroom on the retail side doesn't affect the towns the same way in the way we apply the fees. So it's a slight increase from $10.68 to $11.01 per gallon.
All right, and we have 4 towns who currently have those interlocal agreements.
That's correct. That would just apply to Smithfield, Selma, Pine Level, and Four Oaks. Those have interlocal agreements where they purchase capacity. It's reevaluated each year, and they have the ability to purchase capacity if needed in accordance with that agreement.
Okay, and those towns are aware that, and Clayton is in here somewhere. What's the situation with Clayton and all that we have going in different
Clayton, we
directions?
have existing agreements, and that's purchase capacity. They've already purchased it under that agreement. We don't have an ongoing agreement with them to continue to routinely purchase capacity. So any additional bulk wastewater sales would require specific interlocal agreements.
Okay, and so the towns have been a part of this and know, I think my quick math was that's like 3%.
Yes, they're aware of the proposed increase. And I did propose an effective date for the towns of November 1 so that they have been notified of the proposed changes. We typically try to give the towns 90 days advance notice. In fact, I think that's in their agreements stating such.
All right, any other questions?
I have a question, and I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. And this might be more with public health versus public utilities, about the rule where if you're less than 350 feet, you have to tap on. So would that be, let's say a person decides that they are wanting to now all of a sudden build a house, would that be considered new construction of the $6,000, or would that be the $23.75 rate?
If someone wants to construct a new house, it would be the new construction rate, whether they're, no matter where they're located. And that 350-foot rule is what's applicable to our mandatory water connection policy.
Okay.
So what was the basis?
And what was the basis for that?
Yeah, that was, was that back in the 90s when we were?
That was adopted when our water districts were established, and I think, there was certainly some intent behind that for public health protection to ensure people do have safe, reliable water that meets drinking water standards. And I'm sure, there was a need for districts to have customers to connect at that time.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is the consensus of the board, but is that something you could take a look at and see what the impact?
I'm meeting with other department heads that may be impacted by that, in fact, this afternoon, to talk a little more about that policy and options as we go forward.
Yeah, it would seem that the choice would be good, but I don't know if that means larger lots, and then we'd get to deal with all that. So, but yeah, if y'all staff could work on that, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so this is just my thoughts on it. We've got a lot to consider here. I do think that, I don't think another 2 weeks is going to make or break this. I know there's some notices that we want to give to the customers and to the bulk customers.
Let me ask you this.
Yep.
Is 2 weeks going to change anybody's opinion on this board?
I don't know the answer to mine yet. It may change mine. I know what I think I want to do, but I'd like to think it through just a little bit. I don't mind going to the max. I think that's probably what I will want to do, but I do want to look at that lower end on existing residential customers, and that may make, if you're talking 10% of the customers there, that may make more sense to phase that one in. Now, if the board wants to vote on today,
That was one of my questions, is could you go to, for the proposal, for the map, say, for example, the residential new construction, could you start out with the 8980, but then keep for the residential, keep that, can you, or does it have to be one or all? If that makes sense.
I might would defer that one to our attorney.
Yeah, so we would phase in the existing residential as proposed and then consider going to the
The max
maximum
for
on
the
the
new.
the others.
So part of the issue is that it's a little hard to differentiate between the two. I think you'd have to
Okay.
set some standard related to that, so when it comes in, they know which pile to put it in. And so we had talked some time ago, and I can't remember if this was an internal conversation or an external conversation, but we had talked some time ago about maybe looking at the number of lots, that sort of thing, in making that differentiation. But I do think that it could be difficult. The other thing that I would be concerned about is hypothetically, let's say, hypothetically, you said if it's a minor subdivision, you do it this way. If it's a major subdivision, you do it this other way. Well, sometimes we see where these minor subdivisions have been done, and then they come back for a major. And so I would encourage you to be careful with that, but certainly that's something that we could look at a little bit more if the board so desired us to do that.
Thank
I
you.
was a little confused on, so if it's a new minor or major subdivision, then why wouldn't that automatically not fall under new construction? Are you talking about doing?
It would, if it's new.
So that
It's
doesn't
net
seem
new.
like a hard, so give me an example of the existing major, minor subdivision that would go well disconnect.
Perhaps one that was done a number of years ago, and then it comes back because they want to put a new lot in, that sort of thing. That can happen. We've seen
We've
that
seen that.
happen at the planning board, but, and it doesn't happen that often.
that's-
I will say that. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen.
It does happen.
So we'd have to think through that.
Okay. All right, and I guess the question, we've got the estimate, and we got bulk fees. Is there any more urgency to define the bulk fees so the towns and private entities will know sooner, so they can let their citizens know, our customers?
I've notified them after
Okay.
the last meeting, but they're aware of what we've proposed, and they're aware of the complete calculation. You know, what's
Okay,
what
so
was
it's actually
proposed,
system
what's
development fees are
recommended.
October 1 and the bulk is
Yes,
November
the
1.
bulk
Okay.
was November 1. Mhm. Now, certainly, if we know ahead of time for the bulks where, they see the recommended, and then we're going to a different
Right.
rate, then I would certainly notify them of such.
What are the wishes of the board?
I'm like you, I have a few more questions I'd love to just kind of talk through with
Yeah.
y'all on just some of it's just the reasoning behind it, and if there is a middle of the road that makes more sense. I just would like to have some more time to.
I think prudent deliberation should always be on the forefront of what we do. But I'm also reminded of what our new DA said a while ago in terms of efficiency in operation. But Commissioner April makes a good point.
And I think we heard in public comment a different view, so I think, is everybody okay with taking this back up on the 18th?
I think that would be the best option, yes.
Okay. All right,
Need a motion?
thank you. We just put it as an item on the 18th. I don't think we need to take any action. Okay.
Good.
All right. I think I can flip the page here. So next up, we have a
Real.
Child Support Awareness Month. Is that,
Yep,
okay, I'm on the right spot.
yep, that's right.
And I've asked Commissioner Harris to read it, but I believe we have a representative here to speak to us about this. Oh, there we go. I couldn't see you behind the crowd there. I was hoping it popped up.
Had a lot of traffic in our lane.
Good morning.
So good morning to the board.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to address you and for us to request this proclamation from you today. My name is Dion Fortner, and I am the newest, and it's nice to say that as a middle-aged lady, the newest member of the county attorney's office. Beforehand, I had worked for 3 decades doing what I thought was a very similar job to what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today, which is supporting child support collections efforts. However, now I've had the opportunity just for a few months, but a lot of learning in that learning curve, to learn what our child support enforcement agency does, how the sausage is made now as an insider. And I want to tell you guys how much respect and gratitude I've had for this agency, its leadership, its personnel, and its very mission. Let's talk about the mission. It begins with a core acknowledgement that our children are our priorities, and that financial support, along with emotional support, is required for these young people to become happy, healthy, and productive individuals. Child support services assist to locate non-custodial parents, establish paternity, establish legally enforceable child support orders and medical support responsibilities, manage and disperse the child support, which can include things like income withholding, and then to enforce unpaid child support through court interventions and administrative actions such as tax intercepts and license suspensions. To accomplish this mission, our county's office has experienced leadership with its directors and supervisors. It has 13 child support agents, 3 who establish obligations, 8 who enforce them, and 2 who handle establishing and enforcing interstate child support cases when a parent is across state lines. The agents are supported by 4 administrative staff and 3 part-time staffers. Now, I've told you a little bit about myself, but the most important folks are our sampling of our child support office right here in the back. We have Sandy Murray, Carmen Pollock, Brittany Arant, and Kimberly Stephenson. And they're just a few of those individuals that I say today I've been so impressed by. Now, let me give you a few statistics that will blow your mind. In the 24-25 fiscal year, Johnston County Child Support averaged 5,081 open cases at one time. We established new child support orders in 444 cases, and the agency collected close to $15.5 million in child support. And I'll give you the exact number, $15,479,767.68. And we did that, the agency did that, not me, utilizing 3,715 wage withholding processes and 4,131 contempt actions in court. But at the heart of these collections efforts is an emphasis on communication. And sometimes that is the hardest and the most time-consuming of the daily tasks that the agency has. Our agency has tirelessly worked to communicate with custodial parents, non-custodial parents, other in-state and interstate child support agencies, employers, each other, attorneys, clerks, judicial staffs, the sheriff's department, pushing along the importance and the seriousness of this ultimate endeavor to get financial resources to the children. Along these lines of promoting good communication, we appreciate your consideration of adopting the proclamation to increase public awareness and outreach. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
I have one quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Do I understand on any point, on any given day, you average 5,081 open cases that day?
Yes.
Wow.
That is amazing.
With that being said, we'll read the proclamation for Child Support Awareness Month, August 2025. Whereas children are entitled to financial support from their parents, and whereas children who do not receive adequate financial and emotional support from their parents may experience greater difficulty in becoming happy, healthy, and productive residents. And whereas Johnston County applauds the parents who support their children and make child support payments consistently to care for them. And whereas many concerned and dedicated judges, attorneys, clerks of court, law enforcement personnel, and child support professionals work to establish and enforce child support orders for Johnston County's children, one of our most vital resources. And whereas it is important to increase public awareness of the child support program through outreach and education to reinforce that all parents must take responsibility for the financial, emotional, and physical responsibility and support of their children. Now, therefore, the Johnston County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim August 2025 as Child Support Awareness Month in Johnston County and encourages all citizens to work together to make our children's future stable and bright. Adopted this 4th day of August 2025, and Mr. Chairman, I'll enter that as a form of a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item up is a presentation by Scott Saylor on Johnston County Rail. Good morning, Mr. Saylor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
He didn't know I was going to wade through so much water today.
Good morning. My name is Scott Saylor. I serve as an advisor to the county on rail issues, and particularly lately, more with regard to expansion of Amtrak service in the county. And just first want to go over kind of a quick network update because the world of railroads is changing a little bit, particularly in the last 30 days with some proposed mergers. Do we have the maps for the screen? The back up one more. Thank you. Let me start with this map. The red in the east is the Norfolk Southern, and what's important about this is there's been a merger proposed, as you've probably read, between Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern. There hasn't been a railroad merger like this in 30 years. These are rare, and it would create ostensibly an East Coast to West Coast company. They already operate the networks this way. What this would do is combine the corporations formally. That's created quite a lot of interest by rail shippers, some of whom may support it, some of whom may not. The railroads themselves, who of course are in favor of it, it offers, their argument would be it offers a lot more efficiency in the network. And with that, I'll go to the second map here. In Johnston County, you're blessed with 2 of the 6 Class 1 railroads in the United States. So if this merger occurs, there would be 5 instead of 6. But potentially, there could be another merger where CSX and a partner, and the speculation is BNSF, which is owned by Berkshire Hathaway. It's the only large privately held railroad company. May also propose a merger to create competing east-west Class 1 railroads. So that overlay, if you took, let's say, the first Norfolk Southern BNSF, Union Pacific, if that is approved, and that's not done yet, the regulatory process there I wanted to mention in just a minute. And if CSX merges with the BN, I didn't add a BN map to this network, but BN is very much a West Coast and Midwestern railroad company that comes as far east as Birmingham, but no farther east than that. It creates the potential for a shift in the economics of those rail moves for freight, for your freight customers in the county and all in the Mid-Atlantic. But as important, I think, let me go ahead to the third map. This is the only other map that I have for today. There we go. Thank you. Is if both of these mergers occurred, it would be the first time that there would not be a corporate headquarters of the rail system in the United States in the East. It would move the center of gravity, if you will, from a corporate standpoint to Omaha, Nebraska, where BN is based. CSX is based in Jacksonville, Florida. Norfolk Southern is based in Atlanta, previously Norfolk and Roanoke. And Union Pacific is based in Omaha. So potentially you'll have a corporate shift to the west and perhaps not as much presence in the east as we've seen in the last 200 years. I say that because the overlay in North Carolina, if you took those system maps, and here you are on the crossroads of the CSX, as you know, north-south, and the North Carolina Railroad line, which is operated by Norfolk Southern, that goes east-west. So the western end of the railroad that comes into Selma and goes east, the western end of that railroad is Charlotte, but it's operated by Norfolk Southern as a part of the network under a long-term lease. The CSX line is sort of the I-95 of railroads, Norfolk Southern being more of the I-85, and that creates that competition, of course, between them. And the overlay here, the reason I showed this map is this shows not only the freight network, but also the Amtrak passenger network. All of the Class 1 railroads have to accept Amtrak in various ways. Amtrak is largely funded by the federal government, but our state, through North Carolina DOT, also adds to what Amtrak's base network is by something called state-supported service. So our DOT, using state funds, runs 4 additional trains per day each way between Raleigh and Charlotte. And that's on top of the existing service that you have here. You have a couple of trains that stop in Selma. One of those trains goes on to Charlotte. One goes to Cary and turns south. So here, what we've been talking about and the potential for is not commuter rail so much, but an expansion of Amtrak service in the county that DOT has already been pursuing in various ways in other counties around the state. So Amtrak operates on this network. If there is an expansion of Amtrak service that the county may be interested in, it would be more likely on the existing Amtrak routes. So the piece from Raleigh to Selma particularly is already part of Amtrak for those trains that you see here. But there are only a couple of them a day, and only one of those goes into the triangle each way. And that train continues on to New York. As you know, it's called the Carolinian. But between Raleigh and Charlotte, there are 8 trains a day, and, 10 total, 5 in each direction. And what we've wanted to talk about, the potential for the county to see, is an extension of those trains east from Raleigh down to Selma, perhaps with a station in between. One of the aspects of that is the section between Raleigh and Selma is one of the longest stretches now on the east-west route that doesn't have a station. So we've got that 30-mile gap. So overall, you've got about 70 miles of railroad in the county, both CSX and Norfolk Southern, and about 93% of that already has some Amtrak activity on it, which means those tracks are maintained to a little higher standard than you would see on a freight-only line at lower speeds. So I just want to conclude with that and try to keep this brief and leave time for any questions that you all might have, Mr. Chairman or members of the commission.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Saylor?
I've got a couple of questions. Scott, what is a designated Class 1 freight service? What makes it a Class 1? What is the difference?
It's based on revenue.
Okay.
And how many hundreds of millions of dollars of gross revenue earned by the freight railroads.
Okay.
It's a regulatory standard.
One other minor question. The one over between Andrews and Dillsboro, is that a vacation site or is that an operating real railroad?
It is both. It's an excursion train. Mm-hmm. It's regulated the same way as any other railroad, but they carry a huge number of people on the Great Smoky Mountain Railway.
I got you.
It's privately owned.
Right.
Back to the railroad mergers, I meant to say that that's a federal regulatory process. It's not a done deal. At some point, the county may be asked to comment, or you may want to comment on that merger and the effect it might have on the county. If it affects your freight customers here, you have several, I know, in different locations on the railroad. If it affects them favorably or unfavorably, it may be something that the county may be called on to comment on, or you could decide to comment on it. It is a public regulatory process, this merger. It has to be approved by the U.S. Surface Transportation Board.
My banking career took me to several communities that had short lines. Has this merger activity affected short lines in any way?
That's going to be a question. I think if Union Pacific has a perspective about how much they want to see their railroad leased out, if you will, or even sold to short lines, it could increase the number of short lines in the state and decrease the number of Class 1 miles.
Right.
It could also have the other effect. If the management of the merged company has a philosophy to own more lines, you could see acquisitions the trend lately has been more the former. Norfolk Southern sold a major line a couple of years ago into Wake County. The line between Fuquay and Fayetteville was sold to a short line, and the section between Fuquay and Raleigh was put under a long-term lease. Norfolk Southern still owns it, but they leased the northern piece of it.
Right.
Other lines have been bought and sold, particularly in the western part of the state. You've seen lines in and out of Asheville that have been leased to short lines, in that case by Norfolk Southern, but they retain the route to Asheville and through the mountains to Knoxville is still controlled by the Class 1.
Right. Thank you.
So there are shifts.
And I know you've talked about really big picture stuff, but could you go into a little bit of detail for the board about what's happening, unfortunately, not in Johnston County, but a little bit to our west in Wake County and some of the stuff that the DOT is working on, and particularly the S line, and maybe a little bit more about the trips that are going between Charlotte and Raleigh each day?
Yeah, so over the last 20 years, there's been what DOT would call an incremental increase in the amount of passenger service. Nothing happened quickly or overnight, but there have been steady upgrades to the routes between Raleigh and Charlotte. And about a year ago, as you may remember, a little more than that now, DOT received a $1 billion grant to reinstitute service on the old route between Raleigh and Richmond onto Washington on that pathway. That has put a lot of emphasis on the investment between Raleigh and the town of Wake Forest. A new station now. There is no passenger service today in Wake Forest. Is proposed between Raleigh and Wake Forest. The $1 billion will not pay to connect Wake Forest to Richmond, but the long-term plan by DOT and Amtrak is to extend that service up. So the route to Washington would then not go through Selma ostensibly and up to Rocky Mount. That way, the New York-Washington trains would go from Raleigh northward through Richmond up to D.C. and on. It's not to say they couldn't keep the train between Raleigh via Selma up to New York, but I think that's to be decided by the folks at DOT. More locally, to the chairman's question about service, so the number of trains between Raleigh and Charlotte steadily increased now. So you have 5 each way, and I think a 6th train is also proposed. In addition to extending some or all of those trains from Raleigh north to Wake Forest when that line is rebuilt. There's another federal program that DOT receives federal funding for, and that program is called the Corridor Identification Program. It's a way of planning, making long-term plans for other routes. The route between Raleigh here, Goldsboro, onto Wilmington is one of those corridors. So there was a $500,000 budget to study that route along with routes to Asheville from Salisbury, routes through Winston-Salem and other places in the state that don't have service. So one of our challenges, you might say, is to try to increase the service into Selma before the investment necessary and the capital and long-term planning to extend those trains all the way to Wilmington. 20 miles of the railroad between Goldsboro and Wilmington is not there. It's gone. It was abandoned in the 80s, and it's been built on. Parts of the right-of-way would have to be reacquired. There are no tracks on it, of course. And then Wilmington has its own kind of challenge downtown. You all have been there. You have a lot of old lines and things along the wharves and the port there. So a lot of work have to be done there. Meanwhile, because you already have Amtrak service into Selma from Raleigh here and points north and south, the thought has been, let's see if we can try to get something moving faster between Raleigh and Selma, with a station in between.
And along those lines, for me, having been on the Campo board for a while, is a lot of talk, discussion. They've been looking at a line to Sanford, and we, at least in my opinion, have an opportunity with the track. Is all the double track in place to Selma?
You have 3 passing sidings between Raleigh and Selma, so you have some double track between Raleigh and Selma. There's only single track. Few sidings, but only single track on the route between Sanford, Apex, up to Wake Forest.
Yes, so in my simple mind, Johnston County hasn't been part of the discussion or consideration. We're probably the best suited for that expansion, the most ready, and yet we haven't been a part of that until recently. I know we have had discussions with DOT Rail Division. Jason Ortner and Jason Myers have been very helpful in beginning those discussions. We've had help from Leo Daughtry, at-large board member, who's a big help to Johnston County, and then Melvin Mitchell, who is the actual Division 4, which we're in, member, have been helpful as long as, and also Campo have been very helpful in listening to our concerns about, hey, we want to make sure that you are considering the Raleigh to Selma. You know, when they go to Goldsboro, it gets a little more way down the track, so to speak, and then to Wilmington is, that's really way out there in time. So I think we've got a unique opportunity here to get some attention and look at a service, even if it's just taking Raleigh to Charlotte and running trains, you know, to Selma and turn around and going back. The potential of 5 trips a day, we'll take 2 if that's what it starts with, but there's an opportunity there. And when I look at Clayton, the Clayton area and the employment center we have there with some big pharmaceuticals and the opportunity maybe to bring employees in and to Chris Johnson, our economic development point, instead of people leaving Johnston County, turn them around and maybe they're on a train coming from somewhere else to our employment center there at RTZ. So I think that we've got some money in the budget to take a look at what this might look like. And I know Mr. Saylor has been very helpful in taking a look at that. And we're looking at bringing on a consultant to help identify where that station may be, and also to continue to pursue, I'll say, waving our hands and jumping up and down. And Commissioner Davis has been a part of that too, to get some attention to say, hey, if you've got $1 billion, you know, let's spend a little bit of it in Johnston County. So, and I don't know if there's anything else. Scott has been very helpful, I will say, to educate our staff and me in particular on what's going on and the opportunities we have. But anything else I left out on that? Commissioner Davis, anything?
I was just going to say, I've learned a lot in the last 6 months of realizing that just because there's a train track doesn't mean you put people on it. That there's a difference between freight versus people and passenger rail. And so it's just been very insightful of learning and also just because train tracks are there doesn't mean that they're able to be used because so many have been abandoned. So it's really interesting to see how shifts in people and transportation can come back around, because I feel like everything was abandoned in the 80s and now here we are 2025 and we're thinking about bringing it back. So it's really exciting to see different types, and then also not just for employment but also the tourism aspect of being able to have people coming in as well. Hopefully they might stop in Selma or somewhere else in the county on their way to Raleigh or on their way to Wilmington. I think it's very exciting.
I would just add that it's incredible how Johnston County has grown. When I started at the North Carolina Railroad 35 years ago, it's spent 31 years there and 20 as president. The growth here is phenomenal. And there's growth in surrounding counties too, I know. But the growth here is just incredible. And I don't know how you all manage it. I know it's a lot of work, but I think the county is due for some additional train service there. I just believe that.
Yeah, and I will say our comprehensive transportation plan update includes rail in that, so maybe more focused than we've spent in the past. But I appreciate the update and look forward to continuing to chip away. And thank you for helping me. Sometimes I don't jump real high, but I jump every once in a while. So
appreciate the opportunity to work with you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the Kenly Volunteer Fire Department and a request for approval of tax-exempt loan status. We have our Fire Marshal, Travis Johnson, and Chief of the Kenly Fire Department, Kevin Hubbard. so it's still hard to get you in that role.
Right, yeah.
And since you're wearing the shirt, it helps me figure that out. So.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to be here this morning. It's ironic the first time to come before you is for a friend and mentor, Chief Hubbard here. So they're requesting a tax exempt loan status for a new engine they ordered in January of 2023. It's part of their apparatus replacement program internally, and it's going to be replacing a 1999 Pierce fire engine, which will be removed from their fleet. Obtained 3 quotes. They have all been vetted by and reviewed by Mr. Chad McClam. Recommended to go with KS Bank for the amount of $877,171 to finance this engine. And I have Chief over here to answer any questions if you need them.
Any questions?
I had a
Either one?
question.
Okay.
What are y'all gonna do with the old 1999 fire truck?
We'll just sell it.
Go and sell it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? And I do see from the screen that our finance director has reviewed it, so I think that sentence is put in there for me, because that's the one I ask every time, so thank you for doing that. So,
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt a resolution approving a tax exempt status for the loan.
Second.
all right, we have a motion to second. Any other discussion?
When's it supposed to be here?
We go for final inspection, August the 11th.
Okay.
Hopefully after the final inspection, if that goes well, it should be in Rocky Mountain about 30 days or so after that. It's been another 30 days or so in Rocky Mountain doing shelving, and then it'll be at the station.
Very good. By the end of the year.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
Good to
time.
see you.
All right. Next, we have board appointments. We had some board appointments that we made in consent agenda, and those were where we had at least the number, or maybe less than the number of board positions open, and we appointed those. We have several boards, it looks like 4 boards here that have more applications than we have positions available. The first is the Johnston County Board of Adjustments, has 3 positions, and we have 5 applicants for consideration. The Board of Equalization and Review has 1 position, and we have 3 applicants for consideration there. The Johnson Lee Harnett Community Action Board has 1 position, and we have 4 applicants for consideration there. And finally, we have the Johnson Community College Board of Trustees has 1 position to fill, and we have 4 applications there. So the board, each one of us has or a ballot to vote for each one of those 4 boards for our selections, and we will turn those into the clerk, and we will announce those at the beginning of our 6 o'clock meeting tonight. I did want to say this is probably the largest number of votes and applications we've had, so it is good to see that there is interest in applying for the boards, and I want to thank all the folks who applied this time, and continue to encourage them to apply and others apply in the future. All right, and that brings us to our tax administrator. Jocelyn Andrews here has 2 items. The first is delinquent tax collection report.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. You have 2 items kind of in front of you. One of them is the monthly collection report, and the other one is the annual settlement. And I want to kind of combine those 2 because basically they're one and the same. The monthly report is the collection report for the month of June, which wraps up the year, the tax year 2024. That is included in the annual settlement, which is the whole fiscal year. That being said, the levy for the entire year was $171 million plus. At the end of the year, on June 30th, we had a remaining balance of a little over almost $240,000, $204,000 left to be collected. Of that 204 or $203,933, 43% of that, almost 44%, was precluded from us taking any enforced collection activities because they were under bankruptcy. and we're banned by law from any type of enforced collection at that point. So the remainder, really, when you stop and look at it, we had a little over $100,000 that we were still trying to collect, that we were able to collect during that time. So that ended up the year. They ended up the 2024 tax year with a 99.88% collection rating. All of that while we had a lot going on otherwise in our office. But kudos to my collection staff. They, once again, head down, got it done, and very proud of the work that they did. And again, kudos to them for finishing out strong for another year. Some of the things, as are mentioned in my comments, and I will not get into I won't read the whole comment section from the settlement, but a couple of things that I would like to highlight there is during that time, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we moved the entire collection system to a new payment platform, which we are, we're fully transitioned to that at this point. And then, of course, as we all are very much aware, we finished up the 2-year reval during that time frame as well. In wrapping up the settlement for the year, basically it takes a lot of effort for our tax office to have a successful year. I thank the citizens who took their tax responsibilities seriously and remitted their taxes. I thank this board for their support, county staff from many, many departments for their assistance, and my staff for the determination and hard work as they completed the 24 tax year and the 25 revaluation. That being said, North Carolina General Statute 105-373 requires that I provide a settlement of the prior year's tax collections. I submit the 24 annual settlement as a true and accurate accounting of Johnston County's 2024 property taxes, and I respectfully request that this board accept this settlement. And then I further request that this board charge me with responsibility for collection of the 2025, which is fiscal year 25-26, taxes as required by North Carolina General Statute 105-321. So that wraps up 2024. I'll be happy to take any questions on that.
All right, any questions for Ms. Andrews?
How did that bankruptcy filing percentage compare to the previous year? Do you have any idea?
It's increased substantially.
Okay.
Yes, in fact, I don't have it with me, but if I recall, it's about a 50% increase in the number of filings from the previous year. It's not the highest we've had like in the last 5 or 6 years, but it is trending upward. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not only proud of you and your staff, but also the taxpayers of Johnston County.
Very much so.
Yep. All right, any other questions? I hear a motion.
The chair will move to accept the tax settlement for 2024 and adopt the order to collect taxes for 2025.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Now the next piece. Today, we are rolling with 2025. Now, especially since you've ordered it now, we are on go. Today, we mail approximately 127,000 bills. Those tax bills that go out are with all the new rates on it. The tax is due on that September 1st as required by statute, but they're not delinquent until January 6th of next year. Again, like I mentioned, we have a new payment platform. One of the benefits of that, it offers consistency and always to pay. Partial payments may be made at any time. We've always offered that in our office to anybody that wished to pay. It's especially beneficial and used a lot by those who are on fixed incomes, but we always have it. But this way, partial payments can be made using or any of the platforms. They can pay online in any way they choose to. They can pay by phone with the 800 number that is on our bills and also on our website, or they can come into the office and make payments as they wish. Also, one thing that's new on our bills this year is we have a QR code. It's also in our hallway, there's a big sign, and in our office, there's a sign, and basically you just click on that QR code and it takes you right to the payment portal. Some of you, when you go to that point, may recognize this portal because it's the same portal that is used by DMV for registration renewals on vehicles or for renewing your license plate online, your driver's license online. So it's the Pay It portal, and many people are very familiar with that. I personally use it to renew my tags for my vehicle, which means I've already got an account set up there, and like my payment types and everything are still there. So now you can link your Johnston County property taxes to that as well. One good thing that is nice about that is you can also, whenever you go online, if you choose to go online and pay your taxes that way, you can put in your email address, obviously just to get confirmation, but you can also sign up for e-billing for the 26th tax year. One of the things it will do for that as well, though, is it'll pick up starting now for the 25 billing, and it will start sending out reminders as we get closer to the delinquency date. It will send out a reminder telling you your bill is due, and, as of a certain date, interest will apply. So we have been asked about that in the past, but these are some of the new features that the program offers. One of the things that my office has gotten questions about over the last 30 days as the county lowered its tax rate and the towns set their tax rates, people are looking at their renewals on their vehicles that come from the state, wondering why it is not immediately reflecting the change in the tax rate. Well, for instance, tax bills that were due or registration renewals on your tags that were due last week. Last Thursday was the 31st of July. Those bills were sent out in April. I had no clue. I don't know that this board had any idea what the tax rate was going to be. So when those were sent out, even though some people pay their bills quickly, some don't pay till the very end, and it's past when the new taxes went into effect. But yet, for that purpose, they hadn't started yet. The first monthly bill that will be due and will show the new rate will be in October. So the October 31st due date bills are the ones that have been mailed with the new tax rates. Now, this is not something new. VTS, which is the state system that puts tax and tags together, has been in place since, I think, 2013. This has been the way it has been because it takes basically 3 months from the time that we get the file, work the file, then it is sent out, and then they give property owners or vehicle owners time to basically get their tags renewed or get their cars inspected and get their tags renewed. So again, this has been in place. The new tax rates will click in, now that they're going out, and they will be in place for the next year. So the much lower county tax rate will be coming. So, I think that's all I've got for this. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Those folks with those old bills won't be billed for the difference since the rate has gone up.
Well, the rate went down. The rate went down
That's right,
for
it went
everybody.
down.
So no, there is no difference. But
I see what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why we're getting questions.
The value was established by
Right.
a
So
different method.
Right. The values are established by the state. And quite frankly, this board set the tax rate mid-June, but some of the towns didn't set it till the 31st. And so we were truly the last minute putting those into the system, but they don't pick up those new rates till July 1st.
All right, any other questions?
I was just going to say, thank you for letting us know about the partial payments. That's really great to let other people and the citizens know that they can do partial payments
And
through January.
that has been in place, and this is a copy of our current bill that is going out today. And this is, obviously it's a blank one, but on the back, there's always been like a payment agreement form, and that's great, and everybody's still welcome to use that, but you don't need that. You can just go online, you can pick up the phone if you want to pay, break it up in equal payments or want to pay whatever. The goal is for everybody to have it paid by the date of delinquency, so that way there is no interest that's attached to it. But anyway, if you can pay, a few hundred here and then pay a little bit less, however you want to do it, it's convenient. And again, those can be made online like that and by phone like that or in the office. And all those ways haven't necessarily been in place previously. So that's one of the things we're pleased about.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have manager reports and comments. All right, thank you. Board reports and comments. Commissioner Godwin, I'll start with you.
I don't really have anything other than what our DA said today, efficiency.
Commissioner Stovall.
I have a couple of comments about, we heard a young lady come up here from the North Carolina Realtors Association and said that they thinks that we need to do certain things, in their opinion, that would our development should be balanced with, policy should be reasonable development and affordable residential housing access. And I personally think that we are pursuing that agenda. Just how we get there, there's a difference of opinion. And Miss, I think her name was Jordan Forrest Raleigh, said that she would ask us to reconsider these system development fees or take them to the max. And I think a responsible development policy is you use what's available to you to pay for the demands that development puts on this county government and its citizens. If we do not do that, then we're passing it back to the long-term residents here. We're giving preference to new residents over people who have lived here the bulk of their life or were born here. And unfortunately, we've been backed into that corner by our General Assembly because there's a strong lobby by the Home Builder Association and League of Municipalities and the Realtor Association that has pushed legislation that ties our hands as elected officials to be able to try to recover some of that cost that the development imposes on local governments. So I just wanted to put that out there. I said I think we do have a reasonable development policy, and I think that we are considering affordable housing access. But you look at, I think you said we had 15,000 lots that have been basically approved but haven't been developed on yet. So inventory is not an issue in this county. It's setting out there. It's up to the builders to be able to go out here and the developers to build these houses. We're not in the business of building houses. We're not in the business of ensuring that people who profit off of this maximize their profit. But we are charged with looking after the interests of all citizens of this county, and I think we have to keep that on the forefront of any decisions that we make. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Commissioner Davis.
I just had again, more praise for the emergency services as well as local hospital. I know Commissioner Godwin sits on that board, and so I had a couple family members as well as friends tell me in the past couple weeks of praises of our emergency services, 911, and also the local hospital here in the county. So just wanted to have a good, like I said, we know we value our county employees and our public safety, and kudos to those that are doing their job.
Thank you.
I don't have anything this morning.
Mr. Rose.
I actually wanted to repeat what Commissioner Davis just said. My mother had a fall about a week and a half ago, and EMS was called, and she was a bit reluctant to go get more medical care, and the patients that the EMS technicians it was unbelievable how patient and how kind and friendly and understanding they were, and they stayed until we finally reached a resolution that she would go, and but the professionalism and everything was just unbelievable, and just kudos to our EMS team.
All right. Vice Chairman Harris.
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, I agree with all those things, and we talk a lot about the departments and the employees and all the different, the fantastic job that they do and the way that they treat the public and the citizens that they serve. But also one that really stood out to me this week, and has stood out many times before, is our county manager, Rick Hester. I got to say, time and time again, I'm just amazed at the fact that how he handles situations and problems and things, and people might be happy or they might not be happy, but when he gets to talk to them and spend time with them, he is always able to diffuse the situation and make it something that's positive for everybody. And that's a real talent and a real ability to do that. And I'm also proud of the fact that under his office is one of the few places in the world you can call and you don't talk to a machine. Mm-hmm. You get to speak to a person. How many people have picked up the phone and called somewhere you've got to press 16 different numbers and try to say representative about 20 times to try to get somebody? You never have that happen when you call the county manager's office. So, Mr. Hester, thank you for the great job. I'm just always impressed when I see you interact with people. It's very, very impressive. So thank you. And that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, wasn't going to say anything, but I'm going to build on that, and it applies not only to Mr. Hester, but our entire staff, and I'll probably wear these 4 words out, but we had 4 words that through many people and many conversations were developed to describe our staff, and empowering, compassionate, responsive, and visionary. And I think you've heard in the board comments all 4 of those mentioned. And again, it's not limited to the folks in this boardroom who are here. They're the ones that are out doing their job every day, interacting with the public every day. So thanks to our county employees and all that they do for the citizens of Johnston County.
Absolutely.
All right, we do have a need for a closed session. There won't be any action taken at the end of that, so I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board go into closed session for the following purposes. 1, to consult with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3. 2, for the purpose of discussing matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4. And then 3, to establish or instruct staff concerning the negotiation of the price and terms of a contract concerning the acquisition of real property pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of going into closed session for the reasons stated, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll go into closed session after a brief minute or 2 to clear the boardroom. Thank you.